wear a badge around your neck that says military escort all times. You have your camera looked through, you have your phone looked through. Someone is sitting next to you reading your Twitter feed 5 seconds after you post to it and laughing at things you say. You were monitored in a way that was horrifying to me. And also, there are all sorts of things that you're not allowed to draw when you're there. One of those things was the faces of anyone who worked there. Well, I just replaced them with these dead masks, these blank smiley faces, because God damn it, if there's going to be censorship, I'm going to make it explicit. I'm not going to be complicit with their censoring of my work.
So the only face is the face of the prisoner.
Exactly, the only person who stayed human there. Well, in terms of lines that you can't cross in the US, one of them is saying anything that's vaguely critical of troops. When this piece was published, I got death threats, I got caps-locked letters about what an evil atheist, terrorist-loving bitch I was. I had people come to my lectures and scream in my face about how I was misrepresenting the wonderful place that was Guantanamo Bay. I think about my friend Chris Hayes, who's a TV broadcaster, who said something which I thought was very rational, which was that not all soldiers are heroes, only some. I thought that was logical. He was forced to make a public apology over that, because in America, all soldiers are heroes, and if you say anything differently, then you will be censored, not by the state, but by your capitalist overlords.
You also will wind up being the subject of a movie that becomes the highest grossing film, is it of all time, or at least this year, American Sniper.
Yeah, the glorification of murdering Iraqis, yeah.
Is there another, there's another one too? Is there another
oh yes, yeah. So I did this in 2008. I wasn't gonna pull out any of my old porn from the archives, but then we all had a conference call and Art said that he was going to, and I felt rather wussy not to. So I did this during the 2008 election. It was my portrayal of our lovely governmental system. I got my start drawing porn. I did covers for Screw magazine when I was young, and the reason that I was drawing these covers wasn't necessarily because I wanted just to draw naked people, even though naked people are cool. It was because porn is the space of profound freedom. Once you get over the taboo against drawing bodies, which is one of the major taboos in America, you could draw anything. And so that's why I liked working in those places.
But this is the Republicans screwing the Democrats?
Yeah, this while they're being showered with gold from pigs up above, and our cow-like voters take selfies and shove themselves with whiskey and snort coke off of little plates.
Manu, you also work as a development economist. Is there any conflict between the two things that you do?
Not at all.
And the people you work with are not, well, can we put up some of Manu's work? They're not insulted when sometimes you reveal that your politics may be to their left?
I don't really care, really. But I mean, in my mind, it's like all the same thing. I mean, when I start writing like an academic paper, or when I start like a cartoon, like I don't think that I'm using the left or right like side of my brain. It's just like, and I use like the same sort of thinking and like the same like parts of my brain when I do either. Increasingly, I use cartoons in my presentations. But I mean, I work in data and big data, so I do a lot of cartoons, about data and big data that I put in my presentations. The funny thing recently about cultural shocks is that, funnily, I did a presentation in Paris, so about big data at the French Development Agency, with cartoons of mine in the slideshows, and they were very surprised. And they were surprised that I would use cartoons in a serious presentation. And they were surprised that I would use my cartoons because they thought it was self-promotional. I mean, which gets to a different kind of cultural shocks between France and the US, where in the US it's okay to brag and to show how cool you are, and in France you're supposed to tone down. But anyway, and I really had a bit of a cultural shock in that case. Maybe I've kind of been away for too long.
And what we've been looking at is something you did in response to the killings. They killed my idols.
Yeah, so...
You actually were a Smiths fan?
Yes.
You don't look that depressed.
Yeah, I'm still a huge, Yeah, so the short story is that I was just asked on Sunday night, a week after the attacks, by Medium, if I, so the cartoon editor, if I wanted to do a tribute, because it heard that I sort of met them anyway. So I did in one night. I had basically 12 hours to do it. So I started at 1 p.m. and I finished at 5 a.m. And then I had to take a train to DC to have meetings at World Bank. So which just shows like just my two activities like colliding. So I was completely.
It's intelligent not to make your money from comics. I understand the economics background.
Now, Art, do you ever feel that you are crossing a line?
Well, it was one of the frustrations at the New Yorkers. It was really hard to find out where my underground comics DNA and the New Yorkers could meet up. So that was the first cover I did for the magazine. Because like my then editor, Tina Brown, I didn't grow up thinking about the New Yorker that much, except for like maybe Peter Arno and Charles Adams. And so my model for what a magazine that had pictures on the cover was Mad. And I saw that mostly the New Yorker would have seasonal covers or It's Nice in Connecticut kind of covers. And mostly long shots and medium shots. And since the anniversary of the magazine was coming up, I started doodling the mascot, Eustace Tilley with the monocle. And then I didn't have a point in mind. I was just figuring, what would he look like if he was Jewish? And then I started drawing payas on him. And eventually the Crown Heights affair that was going on came to mind. The race riots there, and it turned into this image. And it wasn't like a political cartoon where first you have the idea and then you find out how to express it. It was like just watching it kind of cook in this experimental broth of paper.
Who was most upset by this?
That was what I was trying to figure out. This is an example. I mean, now it seems so benign.
Maybe her husband.
Well, it became such a debate about whether to use this thing or not. And to me, it was like, what's the problem? And I did have somebody who's now the editor of the magazine explain what the problem was, but I didn't even know, which is there were rumors about how Hasids would meet hookers underneath the Williamsburg Bridge. And this could be seen as a picture of that for the really inside baseball types, For me, it was just like, it was Valentine's Day, let's kiss and make up. And what was great for me was I was trying hard to avoid the cartoon stereotypes that are the language of comics. It's what you literally learn when you're how to draw a kike, a nigger, a wop. It's just literally in the old cartoon books you'd have that as the little visual dictionary of how you do it. So my Jew sort of looks like he escaped from a Chagall painting, I think. And she certainly doesn't look like she's drawn from the Aunt Jemima recipe book. So I didn't know who was going to be upset by it, but it turned out that everybody got to be upset. And it was before the internet, so this was as big a problem as you could create with a picture at that time. I was very proud of that. And the Hasids were upset because you couldn't show a religious Jew couldn't even touch his wife in public. So I could have copped a plea and said, well, she's Sephardic and they're not in public, it's in the background.
This was in the backyard, in the kitchen.
But I realized even that wouldn't work because I'm a maker of icons, even if an iconoclastic one, and that tradition is one of don't draw pictures of people. It spreads over into Muhammad now. But at the time, that was the rap against me then. And then I didn't understand why the black community was upset, but I guess they just didn't want to miss out on the fun. And I did manage to bring them together because they were both equally angry at me. And I remember being shanghaied on one of these right-wing talk show stations that you've never worked for as far as I know, but they had a black minister from Crown Heights saying, if that guy had any guts, he would have drawn a black man kissing a Jewish lady. And so I was on the phone to respond to this, and I said, well, you may be a good reverend, I just don't know, but you'd be a terrible art director because nobody would really recognize this woman with a handkerchief on her head. And you'd be on the radio screaming at me for showing the black male as a sexual predator again. But the best thing that happened was, in one op-ed piece in the Times the next day, describing how she hated everything about this picture, she describes the Jews' lascivious lips. And in the Washington Post, there's a rabbi talking about the Jews' prim lips. So I just don't draw that well. I just assumed that this was, the problem was that the Jew had lips at all. The thing about cartoons that makes them so complex is what Molly was talking about before, is how they can free float past their intended limitations.
But you obviously intend to provoke, and when you
well,
did...
I thought this would be amusing, but I didn't think it would be like, I was surrounded by journalists when Françpos and I were with our kids in Florida for an opening of a show of mine, and all of a sudden these journalists circle us at the airport. We have our suitcases with us. We're on morning television, and it looked like we were trying to escape to Cuba. But the best thing that happened in terms of context on this one was a letter that came into the magazine the next week from a young woman thinking it was really sweet that on Abraham Lincoln's birthday we had a picture of Lincoln kissing a slave. And this is why we have to watch out. Pictures really can float free.